This is my Billingham Hadley 1 bag. It is a shoulder bag designed for both camera and everyday usage. It's quite a large shoulder bag, but what I really like about it is that it actually can be used for quite a few different purposes. I would define this bag as like a replacement for a smaller backpack or an alternative for a smaller backpack. And what I find that this bag really excels at is for when you need to carry a combination of daily items and a camera, but enjoy the access of a shoulder bag. There just are times when a shoulder bag offers access. Now, if I'm completely honest, I've had this bag now for a few years, maybe 3-4 years already, and I still rarely use it. But at the same time, I never really sold it either. I never even thought of selling it. There's two reasons for that. Firstly, it's a beautifully crafted bag, and I just have a hard time with the idea of parting with it because it's just so enjoyable to actually use when I do use it. But that joy is limited because the joy is mostly in its premium materials, and the design is thoughtful, but there are some aspects of this design just inherent to its qualities that make it somewhat limiting for me. So I want to just explain briefly the differences here. So most people that want to carry a camera and also, I don't know, some other items, a snack, a book, water, they would typically take a backpack. A backpack distributes weight effectively, and all those things are kind of heavy. So there is a benefit in having a backpack. But when you have a backpack, it's on your back, and you can't really access things very quickly. You have to kind of sling it forward. Whereas with a shoulder bag, you already have it essentially slung forward. It's always on your side. So that's really the beauty of having a shoulder bag. The downside is that this is a fairly large bag compared to some of the smaller offerings like the Hadley, Small or the standard Hadley. Those are sort of bags that are more camera specific, and their size limits their capacity so that they can't be quite heavy enough to really be bothersome on the shoulder. Of course, if you're walking with the standard size for a long time, you still might experience some discomfort. But with something like this, you're basically getting a pretty large volume. As you can see, it has a good amount of depth to it. It's pretty chunky. And so that's sort of it's a double-edged sword. So it gives you more volume, but then you're more likely to fill the volume with weight, and it's still at the end of the day a shoulder bag. So they did do a couple things to sort of compensate for this. One thing that they did is they provided a wider strap than the other Hadleys, which is a really comfortable strap, I have to say. And when worn like this, I mean, it's just so comfortable. But you know, at the end of the day, it still carries weight, and it's still distributed on one shoulder. So, you know, it's still going to have its downsides in that sense, and you're going to still feel it after a while. Personally, I actually find that this is the kind of bag that I like to take with me for two main scenarios. Either I want to look good when I go out with a bag. Let's say I'm going to a business meeting, and I want to have a bag that feels nice, that is like presentable more so than a backpack, which has a bit of a casual kind of a feel. But the other sort of purpose is when I'm just feeling elegant, I don't know, I want to go out into nature just for a quick excursion, and I don't really want to have like a backpack. I want to have quick access to my items and just something casual that I can just go out. So I'm experimenting with this, sort of replacing some of my like Hill People gear backpacks that I've been using for a bit now, and other backpacks like that. And I'm hoping that this can provide a sort of quick grab and go bag that I can just go outside. I live sort of in nature, kind of like on the outskirts here of Jerusalem. So there's hills, and it's pretty quiet. And I like taking long walks in nature. It's a good way to decompress. And I find that I like to have some basics with me because when I go out, I often like to meditate, or I like to journal, or read a book. Those are kind of the standard things that I like to do. Things I'm likely to need aside from that, or maybe because of that, are a small snack, basic toiletries, a sit pad, and pretty much that's kind of the stuff. I'll show you what's inside in a moment. But another thing I've been starting to do is birdwatch a little bit. And therefore, the binoculars is another thing that started to skew me towards a shoulder bag. Because at the end of the day, a shoulder bag is just, it's there. You know, the bird's right there. You grab it, it's right there, you know. I found that with a backpack, grabbing your binoculars is really not very effective. Another thing I found is I like to take one bottle of water when I'm going out into like a quick nature walk, right? And all of these like Hill People gear bags, they usually have 2 water bottle compartments, so you kind of need 2 bottles to balance them out effectively. I don't know, it just doesn't feel quite right. And of course I could take like a more basic backpack, like an EDC style backpack that has one main compartment where I can put a bottle in. I guess I could do that. It's just, again, there's something that feels logical about having a water bottle inside, just standing up nicely in here. And what I like about this bag as well is that it has different compartments. Again, I'll show you that in the POV view. So I've just grown to sort of like, I have this like love-hate relationship with this bag. There's actually no hate. It's a love relationship with a sort of caveat of, how much am I actually using this bag? And that's kind of where I've been and where I kind of remain with this bag. But at the end of the day, I'm not getting rid of it because I still love it so much. Yes, it's chunky, but it has a laptop compartment. It has different configurations that you could set it up with. And personally, I have it set up right now with the full insert, so it has like different compartments, and I like the dividers. They provide some structure and extra padding so I can put my camera inside. So if I want, I can grab my binoculars. Underneath it, I can grab my camera. I mean, I just love that kind of stuff, you know? So that's kind of what's been going on. And I just wanted to share kind of this view here before I go into the POV, just so you can see kind of the way that it fits. So you can wear it on one shoulder, or you could also have it like this, and you can set, of course, how tall you like it. Try not to cover my microphone here. But yeah, you can basically just set it up exactly how you like. And I have to say, because of this shoulder strap, which is wider, I do really enjoy it. It is a fun bag. The handle is comfortable, so I can also go like this. And this is nice when I'm going to meetings and stuff, although that rarely happens that I'm going out to meetings, but still, I don't know, I like it. It's a bag that makes me smile. And isn't that the whole purpose of bags? Just to feel like you have something that makes you smile, that feels like it's yours. It feels very much personalized to my personality. And if I want to grab something, oh yeah, there's my toiletries bag. Oh yeah, there's my pen. Oh yeah, there's my glasses. It's just, everything is just so simple in these flaps, in that classic Billingham style, made in the UK, super high materials. I know that if there's a downpour of rain, I don't have to worry about any zippers or anything like that. I mean, I just love that aspect of it. You know, where you can just kind of grab whatever you need, and it's just right there by your side. But I caution again, if you do have heavy things in here, and in my case, I have a full 1 liter Nalgene, I have a camera, binoculars, snack, and then I have like a pouch for first aid. You know, I have just like a bunch of different things, a power bank. You can fit quite a bit in here, just like a backpack, but it's not distributing on 2 shoulders. So I'm repeating myself here, but you get the idea. Additionally, you can even add extra pockets here. So you can actually add, and I have those here, I'll show you those later, maybe in a different video. But basically those can expand it and make it even wider. And those are also a double-edged sword. They add capacity, but they also mean that now you're adding even more weight. In addition, they're also going to stick out more that way, so it looks a little bit more dorky. And this already is a pretty chunky bag, so it already has a bit of a, I don't know, it doesn't, you know, it's not the most streamlined bag, although it looks excellent. Anyway, just thought I'd share, you know, how it looks on me. And let's hop into the POV so you can get a sense before we close up the video. Just thought I'd share with you this wonderful Hadley 1 Billingham bag. and it's wonderful. I really love this bag. It's really fantastic. Not for everybody, but if you like this style, it's great. It's a bag that makes you smile. Okay guys, let's have a look here at this bag from a POV view, just as I would be actually using this bag. So as we can see, we have these two flaps, just like any other Hadley series Billingham bag. And what I really enjoy about this bag is its simplicity. Just like all the rest of the Billingham bags, it doesn't have any complicated hardware, it doesn't have fidlocks or anything, just these nice tabs that you can just easily grab and just open it up like that. Now I'll show you guys the inside of the bag, but first I also wanted to point out that on the outside it primarily only has really this this handle, as well as it has this flap here of leather, and then underneath it it has this zipper, and then this is a fairly slim but pretty large pocket, just doesn't have much volume. And inside here, what I like to keep is this Tough Possum Gear hook, which basically allows me to kind of grab it and hook it on to different areas. So I can go like this, for example, and I gotta find like a good ledge. Whoops, that didn't work. So this hook basically allows me to just kind of connect it, attach it to various ledges and places. Now it has to be a ledge that is pretty prominent, so something maybe like this. Yeah, like that, as you can see. So basically this hook here is from Tough Possum Gear, and it allows me to basically, first of all, it's also a jab tool, which is cool, as you can see, but also it allows me to hang it from different places. So I can sort of find a little ledge and hang the bag like that. So it's pretty nice, and it doesn't take up almost any weight or any room really in the bag. So I use that. I usually keep that inside in here like that. Another thing I now have in here is the lens cleaning tissues, which are useful for lenses. And again, it's completely water sealed. I mean, this zipper here is good quality urethane coated zipper, so it seals it off, which is very nice, and so I use that. And on the back here, you also have a flap, which I don't think I've ever used, because I never really took this on vacation as my primary bag, just because, again, it is a shoulder bag, and that means that it's not really comfortable for carrying all day long on my shoulder, so I usually take a backpack when I go traveling. But if you do prefer to use this instead of your backpack, you could, and in that case, you can get a carry-on or a suitcase and put this on the handle of the suitcase, and it stays in place, which is just a nice little addition there. Now, I'll show you in a moment, but basically over here we have this attachment, and this strap is detachable, so if it wears out over many years, you could detach it. And then over here we have two slots that you can actually connect side pockets. So I actually have here my side pockets. They are called the Avea side pockets. I'm trying to remember which one exactly it is. These are quite nice. Their shape is a little bit odd. I think it might be the Avea 8 or one of them. It's basically just a simple pocket and slightly padded. It has this little slip pocket here, so you can put something in there, and then a mildly padded kind of pocket here, and you can actually connect this to the side of each side of the bag, and in that way expand its capacity. So all you do is slide these guys in there like this, and that way it just snaps into place, and then you can expand the capacity of the bag, just like so. You can see what that looks like. So it's nice. I mean, it definitely makes it even more of that old style, if you like that sort of fisherman look. And I believe Billingham originally was a fisherman's bag. Another thing here, I now have this set to the most, like to the most generous capacity. It's like little holes, little belt like holes that you can tighten if you want to make the bag a little tighter. But I like to pack it full, so it's pretty loose. Now this pocket also has a little string, so you could also tighten it just a bit. And just before we go into the main bag, I'll give you an example of something that fits inside something like this. So we could take, for example, in this one I actually have an admin pouch, which is actually a larger admin pouch. So I have in here various stuff. I got a knife, a lighter, full-size pen, various essential oils, all sorts of stuff. And something like that actually fits in here. Just slides right in. And then, yeah, so that works perfectly. And that just adds capacity. So if you feel like taking something like that, well, now you can. Just like that. Okay, now let's go into the main pack and have a look. Main bag. So it's a flap. Material is waterproof. And so it's a flap. The material is waterproof. So I'm never worried if it's pouring rain, which is nice. And what's unique about this bag compared to other Billingham bags is that it's actually a hybrid, and it's not only designed for a camera, but rather it's designed to be configurable depending on your needs, which I find it to be so useful for my daily walks, where it's really intended for various purposes. That's why it's called the One. So what that means really is that it actually has its own separate built-in laptop compartment in back here, and it's padded, and the entire bag is padded as well. And you can also take out the core, so that basically the core will snap into place. But even without the core, well, even without this cube, let's remove the cube just so you can really see what I'm talking about. So I'm removing the cube, and just so we can zoom out a little so you can really see it properly. So I'm removing the cube here, right? This is the cube, and then here you can see we essentially still have like all this space here, right? But actually, this here is a compartment that you can put your laptop or something else. And you still have all this empty room here now. Now the bottom here, this floor is padded, which is cool and different from most of the Billingham bags, as well as the sides as well are padded slightly. So that provides some level of protection, which is really cool, and it gives a little bit more structure to the bag, which is different from regular Hadley bags, which once you remove the cube, it just sort of, I mean, you could still use it as a bag, but first of all, it's one compartment with no compartmentalization at all, meaning all you get is these outsider pockets and maybe a pocket in the back if it's got the Pro version, but you don't get anything in the inside of the main compartment, meaning you don't actually get to put any laptop or anything in the back. So things will just sort of flop forward if you try to. So it's all about how you configure things. Everything needs to stand up, and you get no padding. So basically, it's just one floppy open bag. Whereas with this, you get more structure. Let's remove everything just so you can really see it properly. And there you go. You see. So now you can put a laptop, and then you can put your bottle, and then you can put a camera. Now, what's cool about this is they actually sell half inserts. I believe actually this one, it comes with a half insert, which is this one here. And so the idea here is that you have half of it for camera stuff and then half of it for other non-camera stuff. Now in practice, this is sort of, it doesn't always work exactly as intended. And the reason for that is that sometimes I actually like the structure that the full one provides, because it has these walls, so you could still compartmentalize things more effectively and prevent things from just toppling over on one another. So although technically you do get more space here by having it just half of it dedicated for camera, in reality, this open space requires a certain degree of knowing what you're putting in and exactly how to organize it effectively. So I often resort to using the full-size one, as I do here, on purpose, just because of that. Let's take a look at what I actually have in the large one here. So I actually have here an Nalgene 1-liter bottle. In the middle here, I have my binoculars. Underneath it, I have a divider. And then beneath that, I have my Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II with a 12 to 45 millimeter f4, so a fairly compact lens, and it works really nicely. I like this for walking around with because I generally don't need a super shallow depth of field when I'm just taking photos of nature. What's more important for me is just having that slightly larger sensor for that better quality of photograph. Now, we put that underneath, so we have like a double-decker system here. 2 levels, and you could even do a third one. You can get another, so I can grab, for example, from this insert, there's an extra one here. So this one is bought separately. This whole core, this full-size one, I think is bought separately. But I could technically put another layer here, and now you see I have even another layer, and I can move that to here, for example, or I can move this to here, whatever I like. Now on this side over here, I actually have my pouches. So here I have the high above power pouch, which I have just a little power bank and some cables. I like that. It's like my juice pack for my phone. Here I have an Evergoods waterproof pouch that I use as my first aid kit. I think that's pretty clear. They have a little window here that you can put it to mark it out. And I just have some basic trauma and first aid stuff in here because, you know, I'm taking this bag into nature. Here I have a Tom Bin clear pouch, and inside I have just a flashlight and a pen and some other stuff, a little bag of tea, just sort of my mini admin pouch. So those fit easily on the side. So you see how, despite these things technically working in the open area here, I like that they have their own compartments and each thing kind of stays in its place. So in reality, I will switch back and forth between these different inserts, but I don't actually find myself using this one quite as often. Also, because this takes up half of it, I tend to fill this up with like 2-3 lenses, because you can also you can compartmentalize it here. If you got multiple lenses, you can really play around with it and really fill this up quite heavy. And then once you fill up this extra space heavy, then I mean it's a very heavy pack at a certain point, a heavy bag. And this is more structured, meaning it has more foam, meaning it gives you less space to store, which is actually perfect for me because I prefer like the structure and the compartments, and then having like a good spot for everything, and I get the benefit of not overweighing it either. So it puts like a cap on how much I can pack in it, which I like. Now, like I mentioned before, I like to meditate when I go out, so I'll just go here to like just sit here, and I like to look at the nature and chill. So in that sense, I find that it's nice to have a little extra padding. This is a Tough Possum Gear pad, which I folded into 2. So it originally came as one big piece, so I just folded it up by cutting the foam and reinserting it into this. This has Velcro here. Anyway, it's a great little cushion for my bum. So I just used this. It actually happens to match in terms of colors quite nicely as well, which I kind of like. Not perfect, but pretty close. So yeah, instead of a laptop, I just throw this in here. Now, this is an interesting one because technically, as you know, I like to have my journal, and I like to have a book. So the lighter book for me would be a Kindle. So I have my Kindle Voyage. There isn't really an extra compartment beyond that. I kind of used it up on this insert, right? So in a backpack, I could maybe put this on the outside, right? If it has like some sort of outside flap of some sort, I could store this on the outside. But here I don't. So I kind of forced to put it inside that laptop compartment. But it's okay because actually these fit. We're just alongside it, and it's all just soft stuff anyway, so I just throw everything in there, so it's just kind of pretty thick. Now you understand why the belt on the front here is on pretty loose, because I like it to be I really am filling it up quite a bit. And now all we're going to do is just take this insert and just really shove it in. This usually goes in when it's empty. But as you can see, everything just sort of snaps into place now. I can just snap it so it's nice and secure, like that. And so it's quite a bit of padding here. I mean, it's quite overkill really for the stuff I have inside here in terms of padding. But like I said, the padding doesn't weigh much, makes it comfortable, and it's cool. Now, over here in the front, this here are these quite large, generous pockets. So I have here, this is another pouch from Tough Possum Gear, and inside it I have just like a little plastic mat that I use from Matador just to put underneath a pack or something if it's really dirty outside, or I can sit on that. And then here I have my glasses pouch. So that's right there in front. There's also a little extra slot here that I can technically put like a flashlight or something, although my flashlight is in that insert as you saw before. And on this side I have yet another Tough Possum Gear. I'm really into their stuff. I like their Possibles pouches and stuff. Very easy to open and close, very nice. And here I have my toiletries. So I find that to slide in very nicely, just like that. And then when I want to grab something, very easy to do so. And then, as you can see over here, I have a pen. So I can just grab that, grab my journal, grab my pad, my seat pad, and there you go. And then in this way I can just go anywhere, sit down, and just start journaling with my lovely bag by my side. So it just has that nice feel where you just feel like you got your little kingdom going on here. I really love the feeling of this setup because there's something about the leather and this material which is very like high quality and nice, and you can let the flap just sit there. It doesn't bother you. It's protected, but still has very easy access. You can just flip it open super easily. So it's really quite nice. And then there's yet another flap until you get to your stuff. So if you have camera gear and stuff, there's yet another flap. Now I could take this flap and kind of put it inside, tuck it behind, but I very rarely do that. I actually do this more with my Hadley Small, which I'll do another video on at some point. But yeah, with this bag, I like to keep this flap. Just gives it even extra protection. So if it falls over, it's protected. And sometimes I'll just close it. Depends how much I really want to keep things. One thing to note, though, is that when you do leave it open, you have to really be careful. If you just grab it now and you try to, it's going to be, you know what I mean? It's you really don't want that to happen. So it's a good idea. It's a good habit to just generally just close it. And that way when you grab it, it just stays intact. Now, another thing that's nice about this bag is that when it is covered, it also flaps over this. So you'll see the whole system here is multiple flaps. So we have flap and then another flap, right? And then here as well, we have flap, and then this big flap goes over that flap. So it's like double protection. And then so if you just close that, that's really protecting that even though this is not closed here. So I don't always close these here. Sometimes I just like to leave these open. Sometimes I just like to leave these open because it's easier that way to grab stuff. Because I already have a pouch in here. I mean, sometimes I even can put like loose items if I want. If I really wanted to, I can empty this pouch out. But I like to use different bags. I like to have things in pouches so that I can easily switch and move things around. But you could, really close everything up, and just depends. Like if you're traveling, like if I'm going on the train and stuff, then I like to have everything closed up, right? But other times, if I'm just walking around, you can just leave that open and then just grab. So it gives you how much you snap and how much you close. It still has like degrees of protection. It's not like all or nothing, which is nice. It's a layered system of protection, which is really nice. I think I've covered about most of it. I mean, in terms of how much you can fit here, you can move around these dividers exactly as you wish. So these dividers are just nice quality dividers made of Velcro, and you could really move them around and suit any kind of configuration you like. So you can put something, you can see, pretty wide. You can, like I said, a whole camera. Now, if it is a full frame camera, like my R6, if it's gripped and stuff, then yeah, I would need to push these out a little bit more to create room. But even a gripped body does fit in here. If the lens is pointed down, then this is exactly like the width and the height it needs for the grip body. If I move this just slightly, if I give it a little bit extra room here, like that. So it really is flexible in terms of how much and how many, how many deckers, how many floors you give it, essentially, in order to have it fulfill your wishes and give you exactly the type of packing that you wish. And it's like my little station, for all my stuff. And it just feels more elegant and more enjoyable than a backpack. It's kind of hard to explain. A backpack also feels nice, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I do enjoy my backpacks as well, but it's a different kind of joy. This is a more elegant kind of joy of enjoying nature in a more classy kind of way. When I think of this bag, I think of myself walking through the fields of, I don't know, Hampstead Heath or something, something very classy and lovely, perhaps rainy, overcast, elegant. Maybe I'm wearing leather boots, and it has that feel, where it's just like, it's a nice quick excursion into nature, just enjoying myself. It's not about getting miles, it's not about covering mileage. It's not about being an athlete. It's more about just feeling good in nature. And so, yeah, you can get it just with the half, or you can get it with the extra pockets if you want even more room. I will mention, though, that the only place it is missing padding is actually in the front, right behind right over here in this portion. So if I were to remove this insert, and let's say I only have the half insert, so right here in this portion, this entire front panel is actually not padded. Now, you do have contents in here, so it sort of protects what's behind it, depending on how valuable. Of course, the assumption is that that your valuables are going to go inside the padding anyway, so it has that entire wall of padding. But if you were to put something valuable or breakable on the internal side here, and then maybe this was empty, and this, so then you could see how you might not feel 100% secure. But honestly, I've rarely ran into that scenario, just because the whole idea is that it's a hybrid pack. So I'm not really worried about something like this not having perfect padding in terms of actual cushioning. Like, it's just enough that it has some kind of substantial, I would say the substantialness of this is already enough. It feels like, if we compare it to like a nylon, maybe 1000D or something, so it certainly has a degree of its own kind of internal, like, just the quality of the fabric is protective in its own right. But yeah, it doesn't have shock absorption per se. Look. So anyway, guys, that's the idea of this bag, and hope you've enjoyed this little review / walkthrough. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would really appreciate it. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you want to help me reach that goal, that would be wonderful. And the more subs I get and the more views, I'll just try to keep pumping out some more reviews. I'm learning how to sew myself now, actually, so that should be fun. And I think I might actually end up getting into the gear industry in some capacity. I'm not sure exactly how or in what way, but yeah, keep your eyes open for that. You can also give me a follow on Instagram. In the description would be a link to my page. It's not super active, but you're welcome to give me a follow there. And I wish you guys a great week, great day, and great life. All right, guys. Cheers.